Right, so yesterday the NPP unveiled, outdoored their running mate to Dr. Bawumia, Matthew Opoku Prempeh. He was first introduced to the Asantehene at the Menchia Palace, then taken to the Jubilee Park, where in a rally he addressed party supporters. This morning, we're reviewing that whole program, starting with the presentation to the Otumfo and then the speeches at the Jubilee Park. We're joined on the phone by Professor Ransford Gyampo, who is Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana. Evans Mensah is head of our political desk here at Joy News. Good morning, Professor Gyampo. Good morning, Evans Mensah.
Morning.
Good morning, Winston.
Great. So before we get into the conversation, let's listen to what the Otumfo, the Asantehene, said first, and then you hear from Matthew Opoku Prempeh.
2020 no oba bio no se mesesana de nakọ energy na me de adutwum wo nana ba konso akosoro akọ ho nso odne ko ye nene waka ho asem eno nene mu a nene omampanya ba de che nso woto ana hweye wose akwala na mesa afa no mo adi machi no aboa me ba de makasa ache no wode metunufo enso ma men kan kire o ma Dr. Bawumia nnu no ho se wo yi wo emane nnu no ho se wo yi wo koye no koye sumpa ne dinachi na de obekire wo na wo so ye dem no waka ne dem na meka fa ho brase kodi akire na ye ne kama mame ya sutie na de ono obekire wo na ye eba ye se nkrofo bi se wani nso ade mesi akwalai metiti no wo fie ma hunu sa ade enti na ye kasa de ye ka no media mesa wuti se ntesa emane nye ho na Ubanso anyame tumi nti ubedi akire na bibia ya bompa ya akire na de nyame ahihye ayeho amaye
Ghana ha yechichi Ghana abakosoma President Kufuor to call retirement not even be sack case we say a free say yechichi Ghana from 1957 ebeka ne yenya president bia waboa Ghana China na do dan Kufuor me say a free 1957 beka ne mo fam Kwame Nkrumah no mo fam obia di wa bedi mampanya wabɔ Ghana ho ban ɛde Ghana kɔ n'anim China na do dan kwa Akufuor meka na meka ne sɛ yɛde gyawa na yɛde asoa yɛde gya no ɔfa soa yɛ ma no yɛ akɔnɔ eti na yɛgyina ha yɛmba deɛ si 2008 na ebi nsi bi ɔbɔ kyama wotumi kan na meka si so deɛ bɛyɛ fɛ deɛ bɛyɛ nimonyam sɛ na do bɛkɔ adakɔ Akufuor na ɔbɛkɔ na 7 January wɔsɔ ɔno adi ne ɔketewa ba obi nsa.
Well, so you heard Otumfo the Asantehene first, and then Matthew Opoku Prempeh. Let's get into the conversation. Raymond Akwa is in studio with me. Let me start off with you, Professor Ransford Gyampo. So, Prof, yesterday Matthew Opoku Prempeh, having been confirmed as running mate of the NPP's presidential candidate, Dr. Bawumia, was introduced to the Asantehene, and then the NPP went to the Jubilee Park where they had a rally sort of, and you just heard some of the things that he said. Let's first of all start off with the significance of introducing him to the Asantehene at the Menchia Palace, and even what the Asantehene said. What is the political significance of that whole process at the Menchia Palace?
Well, they said it's a royal, and so usually if politicians go to certain regions in soliciting for votes, they pay courtesy call on the chiefs, and if he is a royal and has a linkage to the Asantehene, then politically the wise thing to do is to pay a courtesy call on Asantehene and then have him first introduced to him, and then it's a way of strengthening and solidifying the Ashanti votes of the party. So politically, it was strategic, and that they did. And politics is also about strategy. So if they decided to do that, let's see how it works for them, especially in their stronghold. But my view is that others must also do same. If you are picking a candidate in an area, pay a courtesy call, or also first introduce whoever the candidate will be to the overlord there, so that we give similar prominence to such traditional engagements. I keep saying that Ghana is a democracy. And so we should be careful not to superiorize one tradition or culture or ethnic group over the rest. So I would have wished that, or I would wish that the other political parties, if they are also selecting their running mates, or if any political parties in the offering to be formed, whoever they select to lead them, go to the region, also pay courtesy call, have the person introduced to the overlord of that area, and let there be similar pomp and pageantry, so that we are not saying that it's only in one region that this can happen, but other regions that can't happen. And generally, I would say, aside that, I would say that it was a great strategy to solidify the votes and the support base of the party in that region. And Otumfuo is a respected person in Ghana, an influencer, and so all the political parties have been paying courtesy calls on him, and everyone would want him to be seen, to be associated with their campaign, or to pass comments, favorable comments about whatever they are seeking to do in their quest to annex power. And so I would not be surprised. I mean, previously John Mahama was also visiting the place, and I wouldn't be surprised if they also visit the place to also get his blessing, on whatever they are doing. So it's a normal political strategy that the NPP resorted.
We'll come to the.
It is hoped that it pays off for them.
Okay, we'll come to the significance of that strategy and how it could influence or impact election 2024. But let's look at what the Asantehene said. He talks about the advice he's giving him privately, but then repeats same openly and says, do not do anything that would let Dr. Bawumia regret his decision in selecting you. And also the fact that people have said you are disrespectful, you are arrogant, but that is not who I know you to be. But don't let it be the case, and don't, or in other words, prove those people wrong. What do you make of the Otumfuo's speech?
Well, it's a wise counsel from the Otumfuo. If he said, people have said you are disrespectful, you are arrogant, and he's saying for him, he can vouch that this isn't true, but he's still also counseling him to ensure that it doesn't become true. I mean, it's a good. I'll take it like that. I mean, he's a respected chief, so we'll take it like that. But if he asking me my take about this, it's quite difficult for me because sometimes I am also the same. I'm a very frank, honest person, and sometimes quite temperamental, bold, and I do not mind saying things as they are, damning the consequences. And sometimes you get the tag, or people would say that in that case you are being not courteous. And I know I've been to an event that afterwards the organizer said, "Look, we have to take you to school to learn diplomacy." And I said, I don't want to be diplomatic about anything. And so sometimes you get people accusing you of whatever. But I think the difference is that I know how to listen, and especially when I've been counseled, especially when I know how not to behave out of character in a manner that would suit or please whoever may be listening to me at a particular forum, and especially when you are warned, you are told that, look, this particular forum this is how you have to go about it. I mean, I would be able to comport myself too. But you know, the wise king had counseled him, and soon afterwards, I don't know whether it was the party's approach or whatever. But in my view, I would have wowed Ghanaians. I would have done things in a manner that would have told Ghanaians that, hey, maybe our sentiments that we are expressing have been listened to. Look, there are so many ways of going about being frank, assertive, honest, but escaping the tag that people have put on him. On a matter like Dumsor, he could have simply said, in the past, we have had challenges with power supply, but now the situation has improved. We thank you all for bearing with us. Compare these two. There is no Dumsor anywhere. It's a lie. There is only Dumsor. See, when you do this and somebody is sleeping in the darkness, the person would tell you are dismissive, you are not, you are, I mean, they'll give you all manner of stuff. And we do not have to create an impression as if we are only seeking to appease or appeal to a party support base. If we do that, then maybe we are saying that Kasapa, Kasade, Kasanwan won't be pleasant to the core support base of a political party. I don't think that is what we are saying. Are we saying that being calm and yet assertive doesn't appeal to our support base? Are we saying that Kasapa, Kasade, and Kasawam won't be pleasant to the core support base of a political party, knowing who we are truly as a people? We heard Opoku Prempeh speak, and well, we've also heard NAPO speak. And in my view, it's going to be a choice between the strategy that appeals to a party's and ethnic support base and a strategy that appeals to all. We can talk about the tone more in detail and do some fact checks about some of the claims made. Maybe, I don't know whether in the course of your program, but it would, however, be interesting, in my view, to hear Otumfuo's own assessment of the tone after advising his royal in public. But whilst I would be curious to hear what Otumfuo says after the public advice he gave and what NAPO also, how he went about what he did. I want to also say that the very dismissive description of Kwame Nkrumah, a global icon who has been described as president of the whole century, was an unnecessary condescension that inter alia only serves to deepen the tag. And you see, there is a line, albeit hazy, between being brutally frank and wearing the tag we are talking about. And this must be looked for, else the communicators of the party would have a job to do after every public utterance, and to use the current social media expression, then them go explain tire.
All right, Professor Gyampo.
One can be very assertive, frank, and speak his mind in a manner that convinces. But one can also choose to sound like selling medicine or making an altar call at a church crusade in an endemically sinful community whose members have to be snatched from Satan into eternal salvation. In all, it is the circumstances, the orientation, and the beliefs of the people who are being addressed that will determine. So generally, if you ask me, I'm still wondering whether this is part of the complementarity Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is looking for. Yes, he may compliment you in terms of hard work, in terms of being forthright, but it's also the way and manner he goes about being forthright, part of the complementarity we are talking about. Because, well, it is both advantageous and disadvantageous depending on where one finds himself. When I was a student in the U.S., a student openly told our professor he was being stupid with what he was doing when he was teaching us. And to them, it was normal. I was very worried after the class. I accosted him, why did you say that? And he was surprised. I was surprised at his action. But because I'm an African. And you know that one cannot call a professor stupid, or you cannot say this to the elderly, because we are Africans and we have the way and manner we've been socialized. So in my view, settings matter, and it's important that the Ghanaian setting is factored into the equation when the running mate of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is talking. Otherwise, like I said, he will give his communicators a lot of work to do every time he speaks, and that will be difficult for them. I think he should create an opportunity for people to be able to discuss the substance of what he says than the tone and the way and manner he says what he says. I was thinking that, a certain standard has been set. Well, anytime we choose to adore a running mate or a flag bearer, there's a certain, they have a way that they go about things. What they did was more of a rally activity, and it's a bit deviation from what we know. But if that is what they think would be helpful to them, it is fine. But a political party seeking to win an election to rule Ghana must also be interested in addressing Ghanaians and not addressing core supporters. There are two different things.
Can you hold on for me, Prof?
I'm sure they forgot that, look, apart from the core supporters who are watching, Ghanaians are also watching and listening. And it is never true that a core support base of a political party is enough to make that party win an election. If you win your core support base and you infuriate the rest of Ghanaians who are across the political divide and those who are sitting on the fence, you are going nowhere. So it's important they rethink their strategy. And like I said, we would hope that after the first public utterance, I've been monitoring radio stations and listening to what people are saying, and it appears that generally some people are trying to offer explanation, and some people are saying that no, it's not the best. I hope he listens. If he doesn't want to listen, and if that's route that the MPP want to go, it will be a choice that Ghanaians would have to make between somebody who energizes his support base and somebody who would also want to reach out to all across the divide.
Great. Please hold on, Professor Gyampo. Let me bring in Evans Mensah. So, Evans Mensah, you've listened to Professor Gyampo make the point that maybe he should have focused more on speaking to Ghanaians. Would you say that the strategy of organizing a rally may have backfired because of the conversation today about particularly NAPO's comments and reference to who the best president of the country is and the tone of his language, for instance?
No, I think it's about the strategy the party is adopting and how they decided to deploy. We've discussed this quite extensively yesterday. The party deliberately chose a rally format, and they again decided where to hold it, which is in the Ashanti region, for a reason. They wanted to go to the Ashanti region because they know, and yesterday we analyzed this and showed the numbers, that they cannot win this year's elections without the Ashanti region coming out to vote, one, heavily in terms of the voter turnout, and two, giving them more than 75% of the votes. To do that, you need to get your people out to go and vote. To do that, you have to find a way of getting those who would otherwise would have stayed home, not vote for the NDC, but wouldn't vote for the MPP, to energize, to go out and vote. If that is your objective, and they have analyzed it and come to the conclusion that the biggest threat they face this year is apathy, particularly in your stronghold. If that is your primary objective, and that is the primary reason why you've selected NAPO, which indeed is, then your approach will be different. Your approach is to galvanize the base, excite them, and so you would want to do a rally. And so if you pay attention to that, which is primarily their strategy, then for them it was effective, because the primary audience wasn't the generality of the Ghanaian voter, but the primary audience was that base in the Ashanti region primarily, and other strongholds that they have in the eastern region and elsewhere in the country that they wanted to deploy NAPO to get them excited. And again, it all feeds into why they've been to the Asante Hene's palace, the Mensha Palace, because if you've been there, you hear the Asante Hene talk about his very intimate relationship with NAPO, and you are in the region and doubting and wondering whether to give him your nod. If you hear the soul of the kingdom say to you that this is somebody I've invested in and I have a stake in his success, it may become that factor that convinces you to go out and vote. And if that is a strategy, then that approach, the rally approach, that galvanizing speech, the typical rally approach where you say stuff to get the crowd cheering and excited, that works for them. Because that primary audience is that particular constituency. Okay. And that is how I see it.
But Evans, I mean, we would say holding all other things constant, okay? So all other things being equal, I mean, the conversation about the Ashanti region is holding all other regions constant, to say if the NPP maintains their performance in all other regions this way and they improve in the Ashanti region, bingo. However, you would agree if they do not improve in the other region, even if they were to get 100% of the votes in the Ashanti region, it still would not be enough to guarantee them victory. Based on that, wouldn't you say that as much as Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh is expected to galvanize the base, he must also be careful not to incur the wrath of the generality of the Ghanaian population?
Well, that's true. And because people who are watching this on national television were not only in the Ashanti region, they were across the country. And so that is absolutely true. I mean, his comment on the Doomsaw, for example, is one that we've had cause to mention in the past. This is the first time he's made that point, but people who are currently struggling with it, or the time that this year it became an issue for them, and they had to close their shops, and we did the Doomsaw Diaries, for example, this year, where you go to the printing houses and they are not working because the electricity is out, the power is out, they don't have a generator, and workers are sitting there not being paid. If they hear you say to them that is Doomsaw, not Doomsaw, they really don't care about nomenclature or how you target, whether it's Doomsaw or Doomsaw. So they simply don't have the electricity. That sort of thing would get them angry, would annoy them a bit. And so you really don't want that. So that's right. But also, this is definitely, NAPO is a running mate. And you have the man who is going to be on the ballot paper, being Bawumia himself. In the NPP's estimation, from everything else we've observed and heard, they believe that you have the presidential candidate himself, who is going to be doing the other regions, and he primarily is the focus. NAPO is your running mate. He's assisting him do the job. And NAPO has been chosen for a reason, which is what I stated earlier. The vice president, the flag bearer, will now have to carry the burden of appealing to everybody else, whilst NAPO focuses on galvanizing the base. And yesterday, all of us in the studio analyzed and said that their biggest threat is apathy among their base. And so you're deploying NAPO there and leaves the presidential candidate himself to go and do the appealing to all of us, the generality of the electorate. And that is how they've calculated it. I mean, whether that works in the final analysis or not, and Winston, you've made the point, if you can't add anything to the ticket, don't take anything away. As far as the NPP is concerned in the estimation, NAPO's addition to this ticket is primarily, and yesterday I was speaking to Kwasafwa, the deputy local government minister who NAPO raised, NAPO nurtured, was a spokesperson in the Education Ministry, is now a member of Parliament. And he actually confirmed it, that as far as the MPP is concerned, NAPO will not step in a region where they believe they don't have a core base of support. He's only going to be deployed in strongholds as in constituencies and regions. He's going to go to Bono. He mentions the same thing that we yesterday analyzed and in terms of strategy where you deploy him. And so whereas, yes, his comments, if it's on the national television, others who aren't in the stronghold will hear it and may put them off. They believe post yesterday, he's going to go down into the communities, in the constituencies where they have strongholds, and appeal to them there with this kind of style. So that you leave the presidential candidate himself to do the actual work of appealing to everybody else, the length and breadth of this country.
So, Prof, let me get back to you. I mean, you've talked about the tone. I mean, apart from the comparison between, Kwame Nkrumah and Akufo-Addo, you've also talked about Dumso, but also you've commented about the tone, which you're prepared to go in detail. What's it about the tone of Opoku Prempeh?
Well, the tone was too loud, and like I said, that's who he is. And anytime I'm saying this, I also want to say maybe that's who I am too. But you see, I'm not shouting today because I know I'm coming to be talking to a certain audience. So you have to tone down. But his tone was too high. And I'm hearing that he's only going to be deployed to areas that the party areas that can be described as the party's, stronghold, and that he wouldn't go to areas that the party cannot describe as stronghold. And I'm wondering, but even in the areas that are described as the party's stronghold, is that what he wants? We are Ghanaians. We have a culture. Culture is a sum totality of a people's way of life. It includes what they like and what they don't like. And are we saying, who did that survey and advised that in our stronghold, to energize the support base, you have to resort to a certain tone? We saw the people's reaction when Kennedy Japan spoke. And then we saw the people's reaction when NAPO also spoke. Compare the two and make a judgment about the lightness of the support base, about the tone.
Help us with a judgment, Professor Gyampo. Make that judgment. Help us with that judgment.
I should make that judgment.
Yes.
We saw it. We saw how the people responded and reacted when Kennedy Japan spoke. He's also a brutally frank person. But we saw the tone he used and the reaction of the people among the core support base. We saw it. And then we saw the reaction of the people still among the support base, core support base of the people when NAPO also spoke. The reactions were different. Okay, one was more favorable than the other. So I'm using this to make the point that even among the core support base, you have to be able to walk the tightrope in drawing a distinction between being assertive and brutally frank and wearing a certain tag that Ghanaians may not want. And take note of this. You may be deployed to strongholds, and even though, and some of them may not like your tone, but you may, even in the stronghold, not be communicating to those people listening to you alone. Because we are in a regime of social media and all that, what you may be saying to your stronghold may become known to areas that may be described as not your stronghold.
Okay.
Haven't we always had instances where somebody was just advising secretly his core support base, and the advice was leaked to the media, and then eventually it goes, but this was something I was telling my people alone, and it got to the people, the other people, and then there was a public rejection or outcry against that. So my point is that you can deploy him to your strong support base, your areas that are described as a stronghold. But whatever he says will become known to other areas. And in that case, it makes the one who is going to then do the repair work, suffer. It will make that person suffer because then you are saying this and then he's saying this there, and then what he said there. People may be focusing on whatever he said there than on the good things that, or the calm tone that may be used by the flag bearer himself in other areas. So it is important that he manages himself or he is managed well, so that you would appeal to the generality of the Ghanaian populace. Yes, some may like the way and manner he speaks. Okay, some may like it. But if you are serious about breaking the aid, you have to adopt a strategy that does not appeal to some. You have to adopt a strategy that appeals to the generality of the population. And so, for me, in that case, you should be politically smart in varying your approaches depending on where you go. And even if that is not you, because you are looking for power, you must be able to adopt that strategy that makes you calm and yet assertive. Okay. You don't want a situation where you have changed too much and people are telling you this one you are faking. Like President Akufo-Addo going to drink Calipo and people saying that this one there, you are lying. You don't want people to do that. But there's a way to be calm and very, very brutally frank and assertive without wearing the tag that people are putting on him. And it will be good. Look, he is a hard-working person. Those of us who are like that, we work with our soul. Okay, so if I set out to do something, I achieve results. And I know that is who NAPO is. We are looking for people who will be able to achieve results. But the point is that how do we get that person? It's a process.
Okay.
And so you may be the best of persons to help, but at the end of the day, if the people are being judgmental and saying because of X, Y, Z, you may be the best, but we don't want you, then the reason why you may have been selected will not be achieved. Okay, so we are in Ghana and we've seen presidential candidates. We've gone to the field to do surveys and people have said that, look, this is the best person to lead us. But unfortunately, the people will not vote for him and so will not support him. It happens.
Sure.
Okay.
So Prof, I mean, finally on this, finally on this, you've talked about, yes, finally on this, you've talked about his tone and everything. You've talked about how strategic it was to have introduced him to the Asantehene. Will that translate into votes come December 7?
Well, the support base is a support base. And Asantehene has, over the years, has tried to assert himself also as father for all. So do not forget that in the lead up to the elections, others may also pay courtesy call on him. When Alan Shermantin was launching his campaign, it was launching his great transformation plan at the Movenpick, you saw one of the key chiefs of Asantehene was there. And don't forget that Alan also appeals to Asantehene. And he's publicly also made remarks about him. Do not forget or be expectant that Asantehene would also make favorable remarks about whoever visits him. And it is possible that the NDC, in their campaign, if they visit the Asante region, they'll pay courtesy call on him. And being father for all, he would also make favorable remarks about all these candidates who will call on him. And so at the end of the day, it will be difficult for people to say that, look, it would, what Asante did yesterday would all of a sudden sway all the votes to NAPO.
Okay.
No, the MPP's votes in the Asante region is not fully secured because of what Alan Chamantin has done.
Okay, hold on 1 minute for me, Prof. Please hold on 1 minute for me. Let me just bring in Evans Mensah at this point and ask him the same question also. Would this strategic introduction and subsequent rally get the NPP the needed votes in the Ashanti region?
And that you saw Asante give us this very intimate portrait of his relationship. And yesterday, we all came to the conclusion that this is a subtle personal endorsement of NAPO, his son. That obviously translates into, if you look at it, and it also comes down to how the NPP in the Ashanti region takes that and uses it for their campaign purposes in the communities in the region. And of course, the optics are also important. Yesterday, in bars, in marketplaces, people will be watching and hearing for the very first time how closely related they are and how Asante was personally invested in his growth and development. That can have a powerful effect because they see him, identity politics is important. They see him as one of their own. If Asante has a personal stake in his success, then maybe I should put my vote there too. And that's how possibly this can become a positive on December 7th.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Evans Mensah, head of our political desk, for joining us. And thank you also, Professor Ransford Gyampo, who is Professor of Political Science at the University of Ghana, for joining us in having this conversation.